Good evening, it is I, Sylar's friend. My name is DrakePHOSE, I am a Doom Eternal speedrunner, and today I'm going to give you an update to the Fast Destroy Blade tech. Before I do, I just want to cover a few things, three things, for you to understand in order for this tech to make sense. So the first is bring up animation transferring. Basically, some weapons have faster bring up speeds, and some weapons have slower bring up speeds. And we can transfer the bring up speed from one weapon to another. And you can do this a bunch of different ways. You can do this with monkey bars, chainsawing. In earlier patches, you can mantle. You can do it with punching. A bunch of different ways. But the way that we're going to talk about today is with mod swapping. If you hit your mod swap key and then switch to another weapon, you'll transfer the bring up speed without mod swapping the original weapon. So in this case, fast bring up of heavy cannon to the slow bring up of the ballista. And as you can see, it's faster. This is also the same input method that we use for mod canceling. So lock on burst normally takes this long for me to switch to, or switch out of, excuse me. But if I mod cancel it, which is the same input as mod bats, then it's a little faster. So I'm going to be referring it to as mod bats or just bats, but mod canceling is pretty much the same thing. And you can mod cancel like a lot of things. You can mod cancel the fire animation of ballista, rocket, a bunch of things. But all you have to remember is that we're switching mods and weapons at the same time. And then there's silent mod swapping. Now in earlier patches, all you have to do for this tech is switch weapons and then switch mods. And you can kind of see that I'm doing this little animation at the bottom. But in later patches, it's a little bit more complicated. Technically, for the fast weapons, you have to get what's called the fast swap effect. For the heavy cannon, that basically just means shoot. And then do the SMS timings, where you switch weapons and then switch mods. For Heat Blast, you have to shoot 8 shots, or excuse me, for Plasma Rifle, you have to shoot 8 shots. For Heat Blast specifically, you can just shoot it once and then it'll work. Chain Guns, 6 shots, etc., etc. For the slow weapons, you can shoot and then switch weapons, and that'll work, but the timing's a little tight. You also don't have to shoot, but that's more complicated. Basically, SMS silent mod swapping is being like actively developed, and we don't know all of its rules in modern patches. If you get the fast swap effect onto them, it's a little easier, the timing. But none of that's really important. The point is that the tech exists and that it can actually be used, as we'll see later. And specifically, the point is that you are switching mods, is that once again, you are switching mods and weapons at the same time. That's the important part. And then, of course, there's Fast Destroy Blade. Now, there's two methods to get Fast Destroy Blade. Actually, let me show you what Fast Destroy Blade is, just in case you've never seen it. It's where you're able to charge the Destroy Blade really quickly like that. And there's two methods for this. There's the frame perfect method, which I'm not going to get into. I'll leave a link in the description. And then there's a much easier method, which Sylar showed off on this channel previously. So what you do with this method is that you bats into heavy cannon, switch back to Arbalest, start charging it instantly. As soon as you switch to it, you might as well just be holding alt fire as you switch to it. Shoot, do not let go of alt fire, hit a target, and then only after you've hit a target, let go of alt fire. And you should be able to have it. So once again, you have to do this full speed. You can't be slow, right? Hit, and then after that, you'll have Fast Destroy Blade. So with this, you can hold Arbalest as long as you want, and as long as you hit your target, and then let go of alt fire before you switch weapons, you'll have it, right? And you can do whatever you want after the target is hit, after alt fire is let go of. You can shoot, ballista, punch, cancel, whatever. As long as you don't start charging Arbalest or Destroy Blade, the effect will be maintained, and then when you next pull out your pull out Destroy Blade and you want to charge it, it'll be fast. So you'll know that you got the swap correctly because when you charge Arbalest and let go, it'll have the shot in the chamber. Also, after you fire the Arbalest, it'll still have the shot kind of in the chamber sparkling like this. Right, that's when you'll know the effect has been correct. If you don't have that sparkly bit, then you messed up the swaps. And you won't have Fast Destroy Blade after the shot hits. So the first update is something that Sylar knew about, and I think a few other people knew about when the tech was initially reported to the public, which is that you don't have to hit the first shot. So you can miss, you can hit the shot twice, you can hit another enemy. As long as you're holding down alt fire the entire time, it doesn't matter. As long as the final shot hits, it'll work. Okay? And that's really nice because it means we don't have to, we can walk into like, say for example, if you have to kill 3 Caco demons, you don't have to like charge Arbalest on 2 and then set a Fast Destroy Blade for the last one. You can set a Fast Destroy Blade for all 3 of them. And you can walk out of there with Fast Destroy Blade, which is kind of nice. And this is where we introduce the main character of our story, a speedrunner by the name of bowsr, spelled B-O-W-S-R. YouTube.com/BOWSR. CS. Subscribe. He's a tenured speedrunner. He's done so many things, world records, found a bunch of tech, created tools for us. Go subscribe. In early 2023, he started taking a look at the tech and he found 2 major discoveries. I'm going to break the first one up into 2 parts. So the first is that you don't have to switch directly from heavy cannon into Arbalest. What do I mean by that? So here I'm going to bats and heavy cannon, then I'm going to switch weapons a bunch, and then I'm going to go back to Arbalest. And you're going to see that I have the Fast Destroy Blade effect. If I shot and hit him, I would have had Fast Destroy Blade. And just to confirm, let me do it again. And there you go. And this is actually really nice because we can do something like this. Do an entire combo in the middle of our Fast Destroy Blade setup, which is really, really nice. The second part is that you don't need to bats directly into heavy cannon at all. As long as you bats into something and then eventually hit heavy cannon before you switch to the Arbalest, it'll work as well. So I'm going to bats into something else, then switch to heavy cannon. Oopsie, that was a little too slow. Again, you have to be a little bit fast with your switches, so let me do it properly. Then switch to heavy cannon, then go back to these 2, and then go back to Arbalest. And it worked. The second thing he found is where things start to get a little goofy. The second thing is that Arbalest isn't the only projectile that works. Now you might ask, what does that mean? Well, let me demonstrate. Basically, as long as a projectile hits while the Arbalest, while you're holding down charge on Arbalest, doesn't matter when, as long as it's happening as long as the Arbalest starts charging, you'll get Fast Destroy Blade. Now, before you get too excited, only 3 projectiles work. Arbalest, direct hit Arbalest, which you already know. Rocket, direct hit Rocket, and direct hit Sticky. And the rocket can't be a lock-on rocket. It has to be a normal rocket. So unfortunately, only 3, and Sticky is not that useful because you have to be pretty far away. Like this. Oopsie, didn't mod cancel. Let me try it again. Yeah, you have to be pretty far away to get it because of its high speed. But the rocket discovery is actually really nice because we can, for example, use lock-on cancel. Let me see if I can do this. Like so. And come out of it with Fast Destroy Blade. That's kind of nice. Also, just straight up drive-bys, like we could drive by an enemy and get Fast Destroy Blade for ourselves. Right? That's pretty nice. Let me do it properly. That's really nice. So these 2 discoveries are already major enough. And they vastly increased the usefulness of Fast Destroy Blade. It went from a tech that's like you kind of set up, at least in speedrunning circles, bowsr and I are both speedrunners, it went from speedrunning circles maybe like a couple setups in the Ancient Gods Part 1, maybe a few in the Ancient Gods Part 2 to like straight up right now I think the count is like 17 in the Ancient Gods Part 1, 100%, and in the Ancient Gods Part 2 it's like something like 13 the last time bowsr did a count for me. So this is pretty major. And this is where I started getting involved. And for some reason, when I started getting involved and we started looking for things together, bowsr and I, things went from kind of cute to really, really goofy. So the first thing we discovered together was that bats isn't the only method to start this chain, right? This chain effect that you need to maintain in order for Fast Destroy Blade to work, or to set up Fast Destroy Blade. Silent mod swapping works. Right? Silent mod swapping. Now, there's some caveats with this, like in order to make it work, in order for the chain to start, if you silent mod swap to a fast weapon like plasma rifle, chain gun, heavy cannon, etc., SSG, you need to shoot the weapon first. Otherwise the chain won't start. For some reason. No idea why. It works if you silent mod swap to a slow weapon. You don't have to shoot it. But if it's a fast weapon, you have to shoot it. Now, this discovery is useful. You can, especially, I have a setup at the beginning of the Ancient Gods Part 1 where we start with all the wrong mods, and just by silent mod swapping to set up our mods properly, we can set up Fast Destroy Blade, or we can at least start the chain to set up Fast Destroy Blade. That's pretty nice. And this is where the really goofy stuff started. So, as it turns out, during this chain, the plasma rifle fires blanks, and the chain gun, and the Unmaker. Oopsie. Now, some of you may recognize this. Some of you may have tried to do combos where you mod cancel out a sticky into plasma to set up Beat Blast, and you'll notice that this happens, right? As it turns out, this firing blanks effect is actually a property of the chain, not of just mod swapping in general. It's of the chain. So as long, like again, I can start a chain, keep it alive, and then switch to this, and it'll fire blanks. So this, along with a few other things that I'll get to shortly, made us realize that this tech is its own thing that causes this plasma rifle firing blanks and Fast Destroy Blade and all this other stuff. So we gave it a name. It's called Combo Swap Chain. The chain makes sense because I've already talked about you need to chain a bunch of actions together to keep it alive. And combo swap meaning that you are swapping mods, or rather to start the chain, you need to swap mods and weapons at the same time. So silent mod swap or mod bats / canceling. So yeah, shoutouts to like the two of you who put plasma rifle firing blanks and Fast Destroy Blade being directly related on your 2023 bingo card. Yeah, but there's more. There's more. Like I said, there's more. So as it turns out, if you fire the BFG during the chain, it will deal 0 damage. But it gets goofier unless you have the heavy cannon out earlier in the chain. So if you directly mod bats into BFG, it will deal 0 damage. But if you mod bats into heavy cannon and then shoot the BFG, it'll deal no more damage. Exactly as Hugo Martin intended, of course. Of course. Now, the tendrils will still deal damage, so the tendrils will still deal damage, but the direct hit and the splash won't deal damage. Goofy game. We don't know why the heavy cannon is required. The heavy cannon does have something special about it, because the reason it's required in order for Fast Destroy Blade to work with during this chain is because if you don't have the heavy cannon out before the earlier in the chain, then mods won't happen. Mods won't be able to be activated immediately once you pull out the weapon. Or at least they won't be able to be activated during the chain. So let me give you an example of this. Some of you may have realized that when you lock on cancel, you can't hook immediately afterwards. All right. And this is because during the chain, you're not allowed to use, you won't be able to use mods unless you switch to heavy cannon earlier in the chain. And this is why Fast Destroy Blade requires heavy cannon out earlier. It's not because something specific about heavy cannon properties, it just lets us start using Arbalest immediately. If I mod swap to combat or super shotgun like I just did there, you'll see that I won't be able to charge until it's fully come out. But if I do it with heavy cannon, then it's charging as I'm pulling it out. Look, there's a bunch more details. There's probably some stuff I'm forgetting. It doesn't matter. It's so dense that I've left, that we're going to leave a doc in the description that has a list of all its effects and a guide and all the different ways and conditions. It's not a very good thing to explain in detail in video. Just know that there are details and that they're very goofy. But I do want to focus on a few things that will help you actually use this tech when you're playing the game. The first is that when you want to set up a chain, I recommend you start the chain if you can, if it's available, with the ballista. And the reason is because one of the effects of the chain is if you started with the ballista, during the chain, your left hand won't pop out. And this will actually help you tell if you have the chain alive. See, I'm maintaining the chain, but if I'm just too slow now, the fist will start coming out. So I lost the chain. All right? And you don't have to be instant with your swaps either. You don't have to be super fast or whatever. But yeah. And again, punch canceling works. Firing certain weapons works. Like even if you're firing blanks, the plasma rifle and chain gun will keep the chain alive. Heavy cannon will keep the chain alive. Super shotgun will keep the chain alive. But if you punch, just try and punch to keep the chain alive. When the weapon has a fast bring up, bats or normal, you have to be really sharp with the input. So if you just want to maintain it with punches, do it on a slow weapon. Or just chainsaw. Chainsaw also keeps the chain alive. And I think that's all I have for you today. So once again, youtube.com/DrakePHOSE, DrakePHOSE, twitch.tv/DrakePHOSE, and most importantly, youtube.com/bowsrcs. Subscribe. And of course, thank you to Sylar for letting me come on here and blabber about how goofy this video game is. Go subscribe to them as well. Sylar1313, I think. Bye-bye.